Good morning, everyone. Frank Messina, Chair of the Chatham Historical Commission, and welcome you to the January 18, 2020 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. There's a couple of announcements to be made. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman now. Seeing none, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted in person via remote participation in accordance with Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 145-933-466 hashtag, or by joining the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link posted on the agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access and will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak on any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. Okay, we're going to do a roll call, but I just want the members of the public who are calling in and to ask everybody to who's not a member of the commission to, in fact, turn your video off and to mute yourself. And when you want to be recognized, I would ask you to use the raise your hand function on the bottom of the screen, or if you're on the phone, to make it known that you'd like to say something or raise an issue. Okay, at this particular time, we're going to do a roll call for the members of the commission. Vice Chair Bob Lear.
I'm here.
Steve Burlingame.
Here.
Ben Solmazinski.
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Jane Moffett.
Here.
Don Aikman.
Here.
Alternate Sandy Porter.
Here.
Alternate Jane Tunnison.
Here.
And the chair is here. We have all the members of the commission, including the two alternates. So then the alternates will participate in the discussions, but it is not necessary for them to be voting. One of our members, Mr. Ben Solozinski, may lead. So at that particular time, we'll be notified. And if there is a voting taking place, I believe, Sandy, you're the next one up to be alternate voting member.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. We have a rather short agenda in terms of the fact that we have no hearings, but we have a number of Community Preservation Committee applications. And before we get into that, we'll dispense with the minutes. We have minutes from our last hybrid meeting. Hopefully we'll get back to them in the near future, of December 21st, 2021. So you folks, members of the commission, have had the minutes. They're rather short and sweet. Are there any comments, corrections, or deletions?
Frank, this is Jane. At the bottom of page 1.
Yes, Jane.
It should say in the last paragraph why he is seeking CPC funds instead of fines.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Good catch. You got that, Christina? Or Michelle?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Any other questions, corrections? Okay.
This is Bob, I move approval.
Thank you. We need a second to the motion to approve the minutes. Second by Stephanie. All right. No other conversation. Roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben?
Yeah.
Steph?
Yes.
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And Don? And the chair
Yes.
votes yes. Thank you very much. You know, I'm very impressed. The last couple of minutes, we had a full attendance of all the regular members. Must be not too much going on. We know there's nothing on television, that's for sure. Okay, All right, as I said, we have no applications, no hearings, but we have 4 or 5 Community Preservation Committee applications. And in accordance with the procedure which is established between the Historical Commission and the Community Preservation Commission, and actually is a requirement, not a requirement per se, but the recommendation that applications requesting historic preservation funding be reviewed by the Historical Commission, which is us, relative to the applicability of the funds requested, as it is an historically significant project. The commission will review the applications basically on those elements. First, is it an historically significant item that is being modified or that the funds are requested for, and whether or not we think it is worthy of the Historical Commission's approval. But the final approval rests with the Community Preservation Commission, the Community Preservation Committee, and then followed by the town meeting vote. Okay, so the first application we have on our agenda is an application by the Chatham Historical Society, roofing and siding restoration. This is well, okay, we've got some issues here, but first of all, let's deal with it and ask the actual presenter, Kevin Wright. Kevin, you're here?
Yeah, I'm here, and Steve
Frank,
Nicholson's
it's
here as
Bob.
well.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Since my wife is on the Historical Society board, I'm going to recuse from this.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Do you have a financial interest?
Well, if the grant is made, my wife gets the benefit from the work on the Atwood House. That's indirect, but.
Well, I would take issue with that, Mr. Lear, because, we have, I don't know how, I mean, you're a lawyer, I guess we can go to council and get a determination, but I believe that if you look at the guidance from the Ethics Committee, if you don't have direct financial gain by a motion or an item, and as long as you do what you're doing right now, is notify the public and the chair that you do have an interest but not a financial interest, I don't believe it's necessary for you to recuse yourself. I'm saying that because we've got 2 or 3 other applications which I can think at least 4 or 5 members of the commission are involved in some way. And I certainly am not going to be recusing myself on some of these other ones because I have no direct financial gain. I certainly would notify the members of the commission and the public, of your involvement. Edie, could you please turn your video off, please? Thank you very much. Ms. Crowell? Okay, I see Mr. Burling. Bob, it's up to you personally, but that's my feeling. Steve, you wanted to say something?
Only that I am a member of the board of directors of the Chatham Historical Society. Make that known. I don't believe I need to recuse myself. I do not have a direct financial interest in it. I certainly would support the project, but I just want to make it known that I do have an interest in to the extent that I am a member of the board of directors of the applicant.
I appreciate that. Does any other member of the board, the commission, Steph, are you on the board or you were just a worker there?
No, I'm not.
All right. So, Bob, it's up to you.
All right, Frank, I don't disagree with you necessarily. I was going to err on the side of caution, but I'll just disclose and leave it at that.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay. Kevin, sorry for the interruption.
No problem.
If we all recused, nobody'd be here.
Kevin, what I'd like you to do is, again, we're coming at it from an historical commission point of view relative to the historical significance of the project and relative to the particular item which you're going to restore. Okay?
Sure.
Mhm.
So basically what I'll do is I'll sort of talk about the project description and mention the objectives that we're trying to accomplish. And then Steve Nicholson, who is also on our board, is on the call today, and he can give us more detail of the actual work.
Thank you.
If that works for you folks.
Just quickly, I guess, Michelle, does he have to do anything more to introduce himself officially other than he's done?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Kev.
That's all right. So basically, again, this is restoration of a couple of different areas of the museum. We're looking to restore the east wall of the mural barn, which is located on the property of the Historical Society. We did some work in 2021 that we were approved by the CPA for restoration work on the roofs last year. During a lot of the work that we did and reviewed afterwards, we discovered some other areas that needed some additional work. So you will notice that this, we have a project of close to $70,000, $20,000, actually $20,860 of which is more of the historic end of it, which covers the historic end of it. So that's sort of where we're coming from. A lot of it is to complete the historic portion covering the gift shop and gift shop towards Marjorie's Kitchen, which is the addition to the old house of Joseph Atwood, and then and basically what the addition to the original house that was added in 1833. We're also, the whole point of doing this is, as everybody is well aware of, the last couple of days with the storms and everything that we've had in the area, wind and so on. Our objective is to make sure that we're protecting the objects and the valuable information that we have within not only the barn from the Alice Stallneck paintings, but any objects and stuff within our collections. And I think it's kind of critical that we do that. And again, I will reiterate that this was sort of the project that we had started last year that was approved by the CPA grant, and that's why we're moving forward with it. I will gladly sort of walk over and ask Steve Nicholson if he could sort of chime in and go over more details of the plan that we're working on, if that works.
Kev, one thing before we talk to Steve or Steve says anything, and I appreciate your comments because you clarified something for me, and not just for me and for the public and of course the CPC. Every time you do something like this, the duck comes down, and maintenance. Well, what this is maintenance. What are we doing here? Repairing a roof is maintenance, and I understand, and I'm not against it. I understand what you do, but I think what you did, and just help me here, you clarified it by saying you're only requesting $20,000 of a larger project.
That's correct. $20,860.
And the $20,000 you feel is for those elements or parts of the I'll call it restoration maintenance, if you will, of the historic elements. So if you go to page 2 of your, very good. Christina, can you go to the other section, the next one down, I think it is, which shows the roof sections? Maybe it's the other way. Maybe it's
It might
the
be
beginning.
the other one. I'm not sure.
Oh no, there
Right
it
here.
is. There it is. Okay. So just to clarify, for instance, and you have the whole you have the whole bid here from your contractor, and he also talks about taking skylights out. Now that's not as part of the 20,000.
No.
Bless you. Yeah, Steve, you want to elaborate on that, please?
No, the skylights. First of all, my name's Steve Nicholson.
Thank you,
I'm
Steve.
the vice chair of the Chatham Historical Society and also the chairman of the Buildings and Grounds Committee. To answer your question, Mr. Messina, those skylights are not part of the 20,000 requested. I think perhaps the easiest way to see what we're trying to propose here is the picture that's underneath of the note that says observation photos, the upper left-hand picture. You can see that's the overall project, and you can see the skylights. The only section that we're asking for in funds for in this project is on the bottom part of that picture. You see the bottom horizontal line.
Yes.
And at each end of that horizontal line, you can see the Stolnach barn on the right and the kitchen on the left, both of which are showing their new shingles from the project we did this fall with the CPC funds that you folks granted. There's also that white area at the bottom of the page too, which was also part of what the grant from last year. For some reason it doesn't show up as new shingles, but this is a long-winded way of saying the opposite side of the white area, parallel to that bottom horizontal line, and is the section of roof we're looking to get funding for, because it is part of that historic part of the building.
Very good.
The other parts are not historic.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I asked the question because I was concerned, and I'm not trying to, don't want to be negative here. We're trying to help. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got a new CPC. Now you've got our member, Stephanie Hamilton, who I'm sure now understands a little bit better, but your application, in my opinion, was not that clear relative to what you're trying to ask the money for. I mean, I think you need to make it a little bit simple, in my opinion, for the Community Preservation Commission and to them understanding it's a much bigger project and the $20,000 is specifically for these sections. And just a suggestion, I think, I'm agreeing. I feel positive you're doing the right thing. And the fact that you are restoring the historic section of your larger project, it is worthy of approval. But having said that, I just wanted to clarify it, and that's my opinion. So
That's fine, Frank. I think what we did was when I did the application online, it had different sections. What was the total amount of your project and what are you requesting? And I was pretty clear about that. So
yeah, okay. I think that'll be helpful, Kev. All right.
Yep.
That's my comment and clarification in my mind. So why don't we run down the members of the commission and see if people have similar questions, concerns, or any comments? Bob?
No problem.
Okay, very good. Steve?
Gone.
Mr. Burlingame? Steve? All right, we're going to come back to Steve. Ben, are you still with us?
Yes, I don't have any questions.
Very good.
I'm just into the what's maintenance and what's not, and I guess that'll come out.
Okay, good. Stephanie?
I'm going to be very picky. Is the gift shop considered museum?
It was at the last, pardon me, the gift shop is considered historic, certainly by the society. And based on that, we convinced your committee last year that it was, and you therefore granted the money for the restoration of the south roof of the gift shop. Now we're asking for the north roof, if that makes things any clearer.
Steph, I had the same issue, but then when I went back and looked at what we had previously approved, we kind of already did indicate it was historically significant. It may not be as historic as obviously the original structures, but we did agree.
When was that part of the building built?
I believe it was built sometime in the 40s. I'm not positive, but that's my recollection.
Thank you.
yeah, I believe the same thing, Steve.
Okay, any other questions, Steph?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Steve Burlingame? Michelle, you want to give him a call?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Steve, we just couldn't hear you. Jane?
I think it's a great application, and I especially appreciate the breakdown of the costs.
Thank you. Don?
No problem.
Okay, Sandy, any questions or comments?
No, I think it was a good application.
Good.
And like thing, I appreciate the breakdown.
Thank you. Janet?
No, I think it's a good application.
Thank you. Okay, we seem to be in agreement here. So unless there's no other comments or questions from the members of the public, anybody wish to speak for or against the? Nope. Okay, so at this particular time, I guess what we need is a simple motion authorizing the chair, moi, to send a letter of approval to the Chatham, the CPC committee.
So moved.
Second, Jane?
Jane, second. Okay, any other comments? Roll call.
Just-
Mr. Lear?
Frank, you didn't say what the content of the letter would be, just to clarify.
Sorry, the letter would
The motion was just to send a letter
indicate-
to the CPC committee.
send a letter of approval to the CPC committee. Okay,
I vote for.
Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, unanimous. Thank you very much, Kev. We'll be in touch.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Thank you very
We
much.
can sign off, I'm assuming.
Yeah, good luck with the CPC.
All
I'm
right,
sure Steph will represent us very well.
great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you for allowing us to be part of it.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you
All
very
right, have
much.
a nice day. Thank you.
thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, the next application is our application. I guess I'm presenting it. This is for the member of the public, the Chatham Historical Commission and the Community Development Department submitting an application to the CPC for update to the 2009 Chatham Townwide Archaeological Reconnaissance Survey. Okay. I don't know if anybody else is here from the town, Michelle, Ally, or anybody?
No, I don't have Ally this morning, Frank.
Okay, Bob, you still have your hand up. Is it, you have something to say, or you just didn't take it down? Mr. Lear? Okay, fun and games. Bob? All right, I assume he's having some technical difficulties. Okay, this is,
Frank?
yes, ma'am.
Jane, can I ask you a question? I was on the CPC, as you know, for many years, and I have a question about when you mentioned the Archaeological Survey of 2009, what was the one that was in May of 2006 for $25,000? I have a list of all the grants here.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Jane. That's when it was started. The report itself was finished in 2009.
Oh, okay. So it is a continuation of the same survey or an update, or what would you call
Well,
it?
let me make the presentation and I'll clarify it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Jane, if you take your hand down, and then Bob, if you take your hand down, if you are back in contact, I guess not. Okay, well, as Jane pointed out, the town of Chatham in the 2006, 7, 8, 9, through a significant community preservation grant, and thank you, Jane, for letting me know. I think it was about 25,000 in 2006.
2006 was for $25,000.
Right, that
And
was
a list of
the
all the
survey.
grants historic.
Right. Thank you very much, Jane. So the Community Preservation Commission, in its infinite wisdom, funded the town of Chatham, specifically the Historical Commission, to engage a company called PAL. It's called Public Archaeological Laboratory, and specifically the president, Holly Herbster, who's an archaeologist and pretty much renowned in the field, to do what's called an archaeological reconnaissance survey report. Effectively, or the actual application, which I think includes a lot of detailed, Steph, because you're the one who's going to be representing our interests at the at the Community Preservation Committee. And basically, since this report was completed in 2009, and it has been an extremely useful document to the town of Chatham, especially in the fact of denoting areas of archaeological sensitivity in the town of Chatham, specifically when work has been done by the town of Chatham with the sewer system, in which there were major excavations in the town of roads and other areas. And what the report did is it indicated, hey, you should be careful before you start digging there. There could be some archaeological sensitive areas, Indian burial grounds or other Indian artifacts, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that's happened since 2009 is the fact that the town of Chatham, again, through the use of community preservation funds, has authorized 2 significant archaeological digs in the town of Chatham. The most noteworthy one is the Nicholson, first period Nicholson family homestead off Orleans Road, and which we all know what's going on there in the work that they found, and basically validated, or not validated, or seemed to confirm that this is the site of the Nicholson family homestead. And in fact, our second application we have here is the Historical Commission with other people involved, specifically Greg Courtier and other archaeologists, feel that site is worthy for recognition as a National Register site. That's a separate issue. In addition to the Nicholson dig, there was a dig done at the Atwood House, which is another first period. I think the Atwood dates himself at like 1725 or 1750. That the Atwood House was structured there, built in on the Atwood Road, which is now Stage Harbor Road. So anyway, so we have these 2 significant archaeological digs, and the purpose of the report and the money requested, the $13,000, is to update the report as a result of the findings which we know occurred as a result of these digs, and also the findings which we know as a result of the wastewater treatment. By updating the report, we then put ourselves in a good position to be able to apply to Mass Historical Commission to recognize the Nicholson dig as a potentially National Register site. Eligibility. It was a long conversation by myself. At that particular point, I will open up the discussion to the members of the commissions if they have any additional comments. You have in your packet, by the way, in addition to the application, you have the PAL proposal with a lot more detail than I put in the application. So hopefully we've given the Community Preservation Committee everything they need. I am not naive, understanding potentially the issues with the current Community Preservation Committee in their recent interpretation of the existing law, which has existed for some time now. But I'll let that work its way through the Community Preservation Committee. So, members of the commission, do you have any comments or questions? I'll run down the roll. The easiest thing to do. Bob? We seem to have lost communication with Mr. Lear. Michelle, are you with us?
I am. Would you like me to call him?
Yeah, please do. I notice
Okay.
he's no longer on the list of,
Okay, let me see what's going on. I'll be right back.
okay, great. Steve?
Everything is fine. Just for your knowledge, the CPC did not fund the archaeological dig at the Atwood House.
Oh, you're right. Okay, they did it on their own. I thought there wasn't okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. I don't think I put that in the application. I just put that there was a dig. But
Okay.
I know the CPC did fund the Nicholson. Okay, great. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Steve. Bob, was that you? Did you join us? Nope. Okay, Ben, you still with us, kid?
Yeah, I'm here. No questions.
Thank you, Ben. Steph?
I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
One is on the form going to CPC. Is that going to have an outlined budget?
Well, the CPC's question is, what is the cost? What do you mean by budget?
It also says give a breakdown of all your expenses.
Well, that's it. It's only one expense. PAL does everything. And if you read the report, my application, as well as the PAL statement of work, which is attached, it lists all the various activities that she will be performing. Coordination, consultation, research, collection of data, field work, GIS mapping.
Okay, my form does not have that.
It's attached to the form, Steph.
Frank?
It's the PAL statement of work.
Frank, this is Michelle.
Yes, Michelle.
We did not include it in the packets because we had sent it via email.
Oh,
You and I had
that's
talked
right.
about it.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to know to tell CPC.
Yeah, well, it's in your packet. It's in your packet. It wasn't in your packet, Steph, because we had already sent it to you via email. But when Michelle submits the actual application to the CPC, we'll make sure it's attached to the application.
Great, thank you. And the other question was,
Good catch.
Other question was, do you have a supporting letter? And it says yes. We don't have a supporting letter yet, do we?
Well, hopefully I'm going to write it.
Oh, okay, but it says yes already.
Well, it will be attached when we submit it to the CPC.
Okay, thank you.
I can't put anything over on you, Steph. All right. So let's proceed. Jane?
I don't really have a problem with the application. I look at it as an extension of what was already started in
Very good.
2006. I don't know where we can comment on Chris Seifert's concerns. So,
Well, that's a separate issue which we'll discuss individually. I have it on the agenda, Jane. It's under correspondence. But yeah, we will discuss that. Thank you for bringing it up
worried
again.
about that. Thanks.
Okay. Don,
I don't have any comments.
thank you. Sandy,
No comment.
Janet,
No questions. It's good.
all right. Mr. Lear,
Yeah, I'm back. No problem.
thank you. Okay. What I'd like to ask for is a motion relative to authorizing the chairman to provide the necessary letter of support to our own application.
So move. Mr. Leader.
Second,
I'll second it.
thank you, Don. Okay, we're going to do a roll call if there's no other comments and nobody from the public has something to add. Thank you. Bob,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Ben,
Hello?
Steph,
Yes,
Jane. Jane,
Yeah.
Don,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Okay, part two. We may set a record for the shortest meeting we've ever had. Okay, I'll talk quickly. Well, maybe not. I shouldn't say anything. We're not done yet. The next application for the members of the public is the application, again, from the Chatham Historical Commission, Community Development, specifically Katie Donovan and Ali Sabatino, is preparation and submission of a National Register of Historic Places determination of eligibility for the Anne and William Nicholson Homestead in Chatham. This is a continuation of what I was talking about, in the sense that in order for Mass Historic to actually deliver a letter of eligibility or a determination of eligibility, you know, it's not a simple Frank Messina writing a letter and say, hey, what do you think? You know, it requires a rather exhaustive completion of a pre-application form. In the past, we have used Eric Dre, our preservation consultant, who we use a lot to do this work, and we do fund him. And actually, it's been funded with community preservation in the past. But the archaeological determination, which is a Form D, D is in David, not a Form D, a Form D is in David, not a Form B, and B is in Baker. So, I was advised from Craig Cartier, the archaeologist, who prepared the details or the findings. In other words, when an archaeologist does a dig, and it's a formal dig and it's approved, you know, you need actually permission from Mass Historic to do the dig, if in fact you want the dig to be registered as part of an historic site is for National Historic, Mass Historic Commission. And Mr. Cartier has submitted multiple pages of documentation, which he did when he did the dig at the Nicholson family homestead. And I think most of you and the public is aware there were a significant number of findings, everything from Dutch coins to shillings, and as well as home articles, you know, and that as a result of that and all this documentation, it needs to be put in the proper format and in the proper archaeological format to answer the questions of Mass Historic, which they do. They ask quite a lot of questions, and they determine whether they think this site is eligible. And I don't think myself or any member of the commission has enough archaeological background to actually do that work. Ergo, Steph and the rest of the commission, that's why we're requesting some assistance from Community Preservation Commission Committee to do this determination of eligibility form. We've spoken enough. Any comments or questions? Thank you.
Frank,
And in Steph, in both cases, Steph, what we'll do in addition to the application, Michelle, we'll attach the proposal from PAL so it's complete.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's Jane. Jane, is that you?
I had a question about
Yes,
this correspondence from Michael Steinitz about how, if you've chosen PAL to do the work already.
Oh, that's a different situation, Jane.
It's not for this application.
No, that's a separate issue. We'll discuss it in the correspondence. That was, and let me just put that aside a second. We will discuss it on the correspondence.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. I appreciate that. Okay. Mr. Lear?
No questions.
Okay. Steve?
No questions.
Ben?
No questions.
Steph?
No questions.
Jane?
I'm okay with it.
Don?
I just think you should be aware that there may be some pushback from the committee about.
Absolutely. I'm aware of their current interpretation, but also aware that they've done other things through administrative funding and stuff like that. So I'm going to let them make that decision.
And maybe the application should be for administrative funding, and maybe town council should weigh in, but it just
There's no there's no that's not a decision for me to make. That's a decision for the committee to make. They're the
Could
ones
we-
who decide what is administrative,
Could
not
we
the
hear why,
application.
could we hear why Don thinks there might be pushback?
I think there's maybe some pushback because you're not preserving something, you're creating something.
Look, well, let me explain a little bit more, Steph. The current community preservation committee over the last year or two has taken and made a new interpretation of the act based upon information provided by the so-called coalition of community preservation. The coalition of community preservation is not a government agency. It's a private group of people, of individuals, and the various community preservation committees join, and they pay dues to be part of this coalition. And the coalition provides information and interpretation of the law. Now they have, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's a current interpretation. The Community Preservation Act was written to allow the local towns to have extremely wide latitude in their interpretation of what they want to provide. And quite honestly, these kinds of applications, which the current Chatham Historical Community Preservation Committee chooses to interpret in such a way, are being approved by other community preservations committee throughout the state. So it's a mixed bag, of what we can do. I don't really think it's up to us to go into details, but Don's right. There is other means for the committee to do that, but I'm certainly not going to tell the committee how to do its business. I think, in my opinion, and hopefully there are other members of the commission, the fact that we are attempting to identify an historical element, an archaeological site, and are trying to preserve it is part of preservation. The fact that these funds are not actually for a piece of roofing, we just approved roofing on an historic building. Okay, that's preservation, I guess. So, there's a lot of latitude. Somebody could argue very strongly that what the Atwood is doing is maintenance, and we shouldn't approve that. So that's why I'm saying there's a lot of latitude, and I leave it up to the committee to make an interpretation. But I just feel that it's up to us as the Community Historical Commission to put our oar in the water and say, hey, this is important, and we should try to do it. It's just a continuation of what we did in 2006 and 2009. Boy, what a speech. I'm done. Did I answer your question, Steph?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Don, so are you okay with me submitting the application?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And the chair, obviously. All right, so at this particular time, we need a motion to allow the chairman to write his letter approving the commission's submission of the application.
So moved.
That was Steve. Need a second?
Yes.
Second, Jane.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, no other comments? Roll call, Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Okay, Steve?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. So I will make the appropriate letters and send you guys a copy. Okay, moving right along here. I thought we'd do this in less than an hour, but I guess not. Okay, we have two other applications which were sent to you guys via the email. And these applications are from the town of Chatham, specifically Terry Whalen and Ted Kean, I think, are going to make a presentation. But
Right.
effectively, both applications refer to the Marconi RCA National Register District restoration and preservation of the contributing structure, the Lattice Towers, the infamous towers. Okay, I think somebody wanted to
You,
speak, and I
Frank,
think now we're all going to indicate our relationship to the Marconi. Yes, Jane.
Frank, you omitted one application about the submission to the National Register about the William and Ann Nicholson home site.
That's the one we just did, Jane.
Well, it was part of the other one then?
No, it was separate.
No,
We took 2 separate votes, Jane.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. That's okay. You're
Okay,
very similar.
we have a
Thank you
lot of
very
people.
much.
Right,
Okay.
okay, sorry.
We got you, Jane. All right.
Right.
I guess now it's time to open our kimonos. I'm currently a retired vice president and director emeritus of the Marconi RCA, Chatham Marconi Maritime Center, but I have no financial interest in the organization. Anybody else wish to make a comment?
Frank, I've been
Sandy?
involved with CMMC, this is Jane, since 2003, and Reed has held both of the same positions.
Okay.
And he's still on,
Let's raise your hand, Jane. Use the hand,
he's on
raise your
one of
hand,
the
folks.
boards, and I'm still a docent. And I do want to call your attention to the application that was submitted in 2018. I want to talk about that.
Jane, let me interrupt you. We will talk about that. At this particular point, I just wanted any members of the commission, if they have anything to divulge, whether they're interested in the CMMC. Yes, Sandy.
I am an employee of CMMC, a part-time employee, and have been for 8.5 years. So do I have a financial interest? I get paid for my time, but not in the towers. I don't.
Thank you. Anyone else? Janet? Yes, thank you very much.
I'm a member of the board of directors of the Marconi Maritime Museum and Center, and a volunteer. So, but I have no financial, I mean, unless you consider what I contribute, but I have no gain.
Yeah, right. It goes the other way.
Yeah, it goes the other way.
All right, anybody else? Good. All right, so at this particular time, Jane, let's let the town make the presentation, and we can pick your comment up. I have it. Thank you very much for writing me that email. Okay. Mr. Whalen, are you with us?
Yes, good morning. Hopefully everybody can see me. And if it's okay, I'll share my screen for a couple of seconds here. And again, I'll leave it to the chair if you want to handle, but I'll do a quick overview of the restoration of the Lattice towers and then transition into the erosion protection project. I don't know if you want to do both of those to hand it over to Ted or to handle them separately. I don't know what your preference is, but we can do it either way.
Well, I think we hit it nail on the head. If you can give an overview of both, and then we'll deal with each one individually.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So like I said, I'm going to share my screen very quickly, give a real brief overview of the restoration of the towers, and then give a quick overview and then turn it over to Ted to fill in any information that I miss on his application. So as the chair mentioned, hopefully everybody can see just again the graphic indicating the extent of the National Register District boundary at Marconi. So again, basically the application for the restoration and preservation of Lattice towers in your that was transmitted via email. That is for $40,000 to complete restoration and preservation. And this amount is still pending based upon the extent of the previously awarded amount for $10,000 to do an assessment of those towers. So that is not complete at this point, but we're hoping to refine that number as soon as possible. So
Terry, let me interrupt you a second. Just go over that again, because I think I missed that. What are you saying? You had a previous application and of $10,000?
Correct. So we have funding going back to 2019 to do the assessment work. That assessment work is not completed, but we hope to have that done soon so that we can refine the number of the request.
Gotcha.
People may recall there was an application, this was submitted originally back in 2019 as a much more expansive project. The original request was $50,000. That was scaled back. Again, the assessment and any identified restoration work. So it's really a follow-on request. But again, unfortunately, the structural study and details have taken us longer to get to than anticipated. So the amount in the new application has been escalated. So the original request was for $30,000. It has been escalated $10,000 as a contingency based upon lots of different things that we're seeing in the current market for repairs, availability of vendors, those types of things. So that's where kind of the history and chronology for this application. As some of you might be aware, there's been some discussion or ongoing discussion over these years as well on obviously the Riders Cove area is often is interrelated, hopefully, by cursor, interrelated as it both is adjacent and some of the projects could impact the project. So what we've been talking about also, originally we were going to have the assessment look at the ability to move the tower, particularly Tower 2, which is directly on the shoreline. There was some discussion about maybe moving it back as an option, but now with kind of re-energizing or reconnecting with broader permitting and issues with the Riders Cove, I'll just call it the Riders Cove project, and I'll let Ted expand about what the exact name is. But again, there's overlap and interrelationships on the project. So what Ted's going to speak about now is if going forward with an erosion protection project, basically, which would stabilize the shoreline so that Tower 2 does not need to be moved. So what the application, the first application is really just basically from the footings up of the, I don't have a good picture of the footings, but the footings up of the towers. And with that, I think I'll transition to Ted to talk to the kind of the second phase, or the complementary phase, I guess is the best way to explain it, for the overall protection of the district and how it relates to what's going on in Riders Cove.
Thank you very much. Ted?
Wait a minute, I have my hand up, Frank.
Okay, go ahead.
I have some questions on this application before we go on to the erosion one.
Jesus.
All right, we could do it that way, sure.
Okay, first of all, it says, is this for the $40,000? Is this to pay for someone to come in and do the study, or is this to pay for someone to do the work?
It would be for corrective measures only.
Is there a full budget? Is there a full budget on this? Just in the fourth, showing what it's going to be spent for? It says cost breakdown 40,000, but it doesn't say what exactly it would be used for.
Right, we don't have that information at that point in time. We're waiting for the final results of the assessment study.
So could this be jumping too far ahead?
No.
Frank, can I say something now?
Wait a second, there's a question.
I didn't get an answer. Could this
Hold
be
on.
being, could
One
this
second.
be put,
One second, let Terry. Terry, did you get that?
I did, and as I mentioned, this is really a placeholder article until we have the full information.
All right, well then, to clarify that, for staff, good question. When is that going to happen?
yeah.
Yeah, hopefully soon. Again, I'm still waiting for that information.
Well, before town meeting?
Yeah, that is the hope. I'm hoping even before the warrant's finalized.
Oh, okay. So it's I think, we always, I think this process, Terry, we try to help you guys, okay, at least ask some questions and prepare ourselves and prepare you.
Right.
So I think it's a very good question. And if Stephanie, which I believe probably supports the concept of this, as we voted for it, it's good that we give her the proper support. So when that question comes up at the CPC is, well, what's the answer? Now you're going to be there, but it's good to have somebody like Steph know what's going on. So can I paraphrase what I think you're saying? That this is your estimate at the present time, which you previously thought was 30,000, but you feel, given inflation and everything else, is probably closer to 40. And you'd like the CPC to acknowledge that, but you hope by the time the warrant is being prepared and the final number, that you're going to have a much better number than the 40,000.
That's
Thank
right.
All right. All right.
Frank?
You're skating on thin ice, but good luck on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Frank, can I say
Thank you. I'm
something
being
now?
honest. Yes, go ahead, Jane.
Terry, I don't really mean to disagree with you, but I have the original application because I was on CPC in 2018 when you first submitted your request for $50,000. And we on the CPC had a long discussion over what it was for. And in the end, we gave you 20,000. And according to my records, and I've been doing a lot of research on this because of your recent application, the $20,000 was not spent. So is the $40,000 request added on to the 20,000?
Yeah, so if I could clarify, so there were two components. So, and not to add confusion, but the original request had three different components. So there was $10,000 for the structural assessment. There were $10,000 for actual protective measures that were going to dovetail with Riders Cove types of project things, such as bollards and things potentially being integrated into that project. And then there was $30,000 for repairs. So this application is just that 30,000 moved forward, for funding, and escalated 10,000 just based on, current economic conditions. And then again, when we have results, more specific results, we will finalize that budget, because we just don't have that information at this point in time.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt this at this present time and just refresh ourselves. What we're here to do, guys, is to verify the historical significance of the project and the historical worthiness of what's being proposed, not necessarily, and they're good questions. And Terry, I'm sure you don't mind it, because it's important that, you, the public, and the CPC understands it. And Stephanie is a member of the CPC representing us. So I think there's a dialogue here. But what I'd like to ask us now to focus on, is this is a contributing structure in the National Register District, so there's no question about its historical significance. And certainly, what we're talking about here is the restoration and the protection to increase the life cycle of a contributing structure in the National Register District. So I don't think any of us are arguing about that. So we should put that aside and allow the Community Preservation Committee, to wrestle with Terry over the issue of the funding and how it's being spent and when it's being spent. So having said that, what I'd like to do, if we could, just to put this thing in complete perspective, even though Jane wanted to discuss this first, if the other members of the commission don't mind, I'm going to ask Ted to speak to the issue of the erosion protection, which is part of it.
Here we go.
Okay, members? All right, Ted, why don't we jump into that? Sorry, Ted, go ahead.
Oh, that's quite all right. I'm happy to wait until you're ready. As I think you all know, and Terry sort of identified, of the three towers, the tower number 2, the one directly adjacent to the Riders Cove Town Landing, is very close to the active shoreline. It is, I'd say, not in jeopardy today, but if nothing is done in a few years, I think that change could be very significant. The bank, with just the storms we've had over the last few years, has cut back. And well, anyway, you get the point. It's getting dangerously precarious in the sense of, geez, we really need to do something and not just watch it and pretend nothing's an issue, because there is an issue. Terry indicated that there was a ongoing, and there is an ongoing project relative to the Riders Cove facility in general. We initiated a couple years ago a comprehensive look at the landing, primarily to focus on the bulkhead and ramp system, since the bulkhead is, at its life cycle end, as well as the ramp needs to essentially be reconstructed in total. And we are also at this time developing a whole new float system, since it is by far the most actively used facility in Chatham during the boating season, frankly, year round. So as part of that effort, we had initially, looked at the erosion concerns at the tower, had some very preliminary kind of considerations of what to do, but frankly, the focus stayed at the landing, and we didn't really give the erosion, because it was somewhat of a separate project, much effort, if you will, as part of that other project. Having said all that, the overall study for Riders Cove has been put on hold for the last, basically almost the last year, because we have all these other waterfront infrastructure projects underway. And Riders Cove, wasn't the highest priority at the time, so that one kind of got put on pause. We are planning to start that up again this winter, spring, and get back into that in a big way. So anyway, that's just sort of the intro to what's going on next door. As discussions internally with the town about the Marconi site and the tower in particular, we said, well, it's a perfect opportunity to put in a CPC grant for this round, focusing on the erosion concerns. So what has been presented is a proposal to do a full engineering assessment of what is most appropriate. We had some initial thoughts, and I'm going to get into the cost in just a second, because since I submitted the application, I now have some new costs, and they are substantially higher, unfortunately. But when we put this in, we were looking at a proposal that may be relatively modest to try to address the erosion and go through the permitting process and for construction. We did this morning. The engineer that had done the preliminary work came back at my request last week with some new numbers, and and in discussions with him, I think I completely agree that a more simplistic and therefore less costly alternative probably is not the right alternative for this site. Given the proximity of the structure, the type of erosion, and sort of what's going to provide the protection in the long term, it's likely that we're going to be pursuing what's referred to as a hardened structure, probably a bulkhead type structure. And the cost for that type of a alternative is not inexpensive. So even though we sent this just the other day at 100,000, that was sort of the preliminary numbers, while, like Terry was just indicating, waiting for some better numbers. I just got them, and he's now, or the consulting firm is recommending, given the level of permitting for waterfront type erosion protection stabilization efforts in an ACEC, the permitting will be fairly involved. We don't believe insurmountable. And the construction is going to be considerably more than we originally proposed. So right now, he's recommending that we have a $300,000 total cost estimate to carry us through the full design, permitting, construction oversight, the soft costs associated with construction, as well as the construction itself, which he's estimating at on the order of $220,000 just for construction. So I have talked to Alex, just to let her know prior to this meeting that the number is substantially different, and she said, so be it. If that's the number, then we don't want to undercut ourselves and not have sufficient funds to move forward. So if I can, any more insight as far as the details. I don't have a lot of details as far as the structure, but obviously the proposal is to preserve a contributing tower to the overall site, and I think it fits very well into the goals of both your own supporting policies as well as the CPC.
All right, Ted. Thank you very much. I just have a couple of quick questions before we open up to the other members. And I certainly understand, the difference in the numbers and the reasons why if you go from a soft to a hard structure. One thing you might want to look into here, because this is just advice. There's no question in my mind we're probably going to have some problems with community preservation relative to their allocation of funding, but this is a contributing structure in a national registered district, okay? And there is potentially other funding that could be made available. We just went through a round. I submitted an application to Mass Historic, for 2022. So I believe this round is over, and I will continue to make available to yourself, Terry, and to Alex, because Michelle and I get these things all the time where funding becomes available either from Mass Historic Commission, Preservation Massachusetts, or other groups. All I'm saying is potentially, because this project's not going to happen in a day, but there is potential for matching funds from a number of historic preservation associations, including Mass Historic. Just to throw it out there, because I guarantee you, I have to tell you, you're going to get asked the question, from the CPC and other people in the community. And so that's the first thing, just a comment. The other thing is the fact that it's a National Register site and a contributing structure. And I know you're going to be going through a lot of aggravation with the permitting process, but it's something you might want to check with Sarah Korjeff at the Cape Cod Commission. As this is a National Register contributing structure, there are certain things that are allowed to be done. Specific, if you have a contributing structure in a flood zone, where you may legally be required to do certain things, there's ways to get around it. I'm not saying you want to take any shortcuts, but I think you might want to check with Sarah Korjeff to see if there are other things that could happen to help you, to assist you, and even potentially, quite honestly, is availability of other funding, in that area. Thirdly, is tower number 3. I know that's your application's tower number 2, and I guess maybe as part of that whole issue of Riders Cove, at one point, I don't know if we ever put ballards in front of tower number 3. With all those trucks and boats moving in and out, it's not water, but I know once before somebody bumped into one of the towers. So I would just put that. I mean, is Terry still here? Terry, do you know what's happened with that? Did we ever install ballards on tower number 3?
We have not. And again, trying to coordinate with things that may or may not be happening with the Riders Cove project to not.
I got you. That's all. I just
again,
want to.
Right, but that's high on our list too. Again, we're trying to get at these items, more comprehensively here.
All right. As the Marconi consumed 20 years of my life, I apologize for the questions. Okay. Thank you very much. I think at this particular point, why don't we go down the list and see if people have questions or comments or overall impressions of support of the application. Maybe that's a good way to put it, summarize it. Bob?
I'm in favor of the application. I'm just, as I expressed frustration before, the speed at which the town doesn't get things done continues to amaze me. Personal comment.
I'm kind of with you there, buddy. Let me tell you, this is going on since 2003. Okay. Mr. Burlingame, Steve.
I guess just as Bob says, personal comment about things, but getting back to Terry's application with that assessment, the funding for that assessment was became available 3.5 years ago after the town meeting vote, and the assessment is not complete yet. When was the contract to do that assessment or signed? Who is doing the assessment, and when was their contract initiated?
Terry, you got that?
Yeah, so we've been working, we're gonna work with the former CBI consulting group who's done a lot of other consulting there. So this is gonna be handled as a, services as it's under $10,000.
Gotcha. So you're going back to CBI.
Correct. And they have a new, they've got a lot more firepower now, for lack of a better term, as they're part of a much larger group now with additional resources for continuity in planning. So we haven't, we didn't, this again was under those limits. So we're just doing it through the regular engineering procurement process.
I guess my concern is that the funding has been available for more than 3.5 years. And still we have no assessment, and we're hoping to have it before the warrant is complete or town meeting. 3.5 years. If I ran this organization, I'd be very disappointed that after 3.5 years of the initial funding for the assessment, we still don't have it.
Okay.
We're asking.
Again, we haven't issued it, and again, we're doing the best we can. And with COVID and all other types of things complicating our lives, we're doing what we can, and the integration with these other issues related to the shore protection as well. Again, we're trying to move as quickly as we can here.
Let's try to focus on historical preservation here, guys. But I don't disagree with you, Steve, at all. Trust me. Okay. By the way, just for information for the members of the commission and the public, CBI is not the CBI. It's a large engineering, consulting, architectural firm, and actually they did some of the original analysis 20-some years ago, which led to the restoration and the preservation of all the Marconi buildings. So we have worked with them, and the town continues to work with them in the past. They've done I think they did the Railroad Museum, right, too, Terry? Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. Yes.
All right. Sorry. Ben, any comments, questions, approvals? None?
I have no questions, but I have to leave now, Frank.
Okay. Very good, Ben. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Stephanie?
Yes, I have a question about the application itself. Being on the board, I know what some of the questions are going to be. And I see names of governing board trustees, directors and members and everything not filled in. I see gaps in this form, which I think is going to be questioned by CPC.
Well, it's the town of Chatham. Can't list everybody there, but I'll let Terry, if you're noting what the question is.
Yeah, I think again, as you noted, I mean, it's a town of Chatham application, so
right.
I can review that with Alex if we need to.
I realize that, but I know the questions that have come up already on other forms.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Steph. Other than that, Steph, you're okay with the applications?
Yeah, I just have one question about eventually will the Conservation Committee have to be brought into this? Because I know Conservation's done a lot of work with erosion.
They absolutely will. There will be a laundry list of agencies that will be involved in the permitting of the shore protection component, right. Local, state, and federal. So it's got the whole gambit of the groups that we have to go through.
And those groups would have to be gone through before you spent the money?
Well, before we go to construction. I mean, the funding would be to hire the engineering design efforts that would go through the various alternatives to see if in fact what I suggest might be the likely project, being a bulkhead. It may not be once we go through that process. And then once we have the selected project plan, then we go into the permitting. So all of those efforts will be part of the funding stream.
So it might be better on your form to put down a little bit more information explaining what the money's going to be spent for, not just $100,000, but.
And I agree. And until about 8 o'clock this morning, I didn't have those numbers. I now do. I have a better breakdown of the construction, the design, permitting, construction, and then they have appropriately at a contingency factor as well. So I do have a little bit better broken. It's not getting into the absolute nuances, but really just the key components of the design phase versus the construction phase and a contingency.
And that'll be sent to CPC, this new information?
Yes, I got to, like Terry indicated, we'll go over the applications with Alex to see how we would want to modify them for the CPC round.
Thank you.
Okay, just for members of the commission, and we wanted 2 new members, and it is not very often the Historical Commission reviews applications in concept form. So it's not like we're reviewing the final application, Janet. I was just going to let you know that, it's like, that's what we do sometimes, because the timeline is, when is the next CPC meeting, Steph?
The 28th.
28th of January?
Yes.
All right, so that it gives some time. And in fact, we try to encourage people to come to us pretty early in the game from a concept point of view to allow us to assist, especially if it's a historic preservation project. Okay, very good. Jane?
To answer your first question, I certainly approve of the goal of preserving the towers because they are historic. So I'm in favor of that. I also agree with Stephanie, having been on CPC also, you need to give more of a breakdown. And Ted, I certainly appreciate the information you came up with this morning. And Terry, if you could also give a breakdown that you talked about, that will help your application.
Mm-hmm.
And
very good.
We do want to have it approved.
All right. Thank you, Jane, very much. Don?
Thank you, Frank. Ted, good to see you again. I wonder, I think in the past, we have had multi-year applications, and I know that the town is looking to put a lot of money into affordable housing this year, and I'm wondering whether the town would be well guided by the possibility of having this become a multi-year project, because as Ted just said, now you're talking maybe $300,000 as opposed to $100,000, but just a suggestion.
If I may on that,
yes,
it's a good suggestion. I was going to bring that up with Terry and Alex as well after this meeting, because again, when I submitted with the lower number, I felt it was in the sort of the realm of, why not just ask for the whole, thing at once. The permitting for this and the design effort, is going to be relatively involved. So timing wise, I think it would be very optimistic, not insurmountable, but optimistic that we'd actually be going to construction within the single fiscal year. So, I will talk again with Alex and see, if she recommends breaking it up, or maybe wait until the CPC discussion for a final decision. I don't think it would, jeopardize the integrity of the tower just by, waiting a quote another year, if you will. Hopefully not. But anyway, it's a very good point, Don, and I was going to, bring that up, independently.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, Ted and Don. Thank you. Especially, and I know rather than getting into another discussion with CP, I think if you could provide a little bit of an indication that this is how we could do it, giving them an alternate way to fund it. I mean, in the past, we've even done it with major projects where we took out, we bonded. The CPC bonded a portion of a project to allow it to go forward in a multi-year capacity. Not that this is at the level of bonding, but still the concept and it allows CPC, because they're going to be between a rock and a hard place this year. So
Yes.
anyway, just the reality. Okay, Sandy?
I have a question or two. The cost for the erosion control, and that is to save Tower 2, particularly to save Tower 2. And are we also discussing, or have we made a decision or come to an agreement on the $40,000 for the preservation repair of the Lattice towers? Are those all 3 towers we're talking about? For the $40,000?
I think the answer is yes, but Terry?
Yes, yeah, sorry, I was muted there and saying yes, sorry about that.
Yeah. All
Okay,
3
so
towers.
the $40,000 is for the preservation repair for all 3 towers, and the $300,000 is just the erosion control in hopes of stemming the tide on Tower 2. Correct?
Got it.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Okay, Janet? You're muted, Janet. Janet? We can't hear you, Janet. The lips are moving.
Okay, can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think this is a very important project to be approved for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's a major historic site that should be preserved, and it brings a lot of tourism to the town, and the towers are the last remaining ones. I mean, people come to see them. The osprey, they come to see the osprey nests that are up in the top of the towers
Yes.
and take pictures, and then they go into the museum. So, I mean, this is really very important from an historic preservation point of view.
Thank you very
would
much.
support it, obviously.
Janet, this is Steph. We're not against this. We're just trying to get it so that the application's stronger before it goes before CPC. It's not that we're against the project.
No, I think we're all in pretty violent agreement here relative to the restoration of these towers. So having said that, what I'd like to do is to break it up and take a quick vote first on the first application, the 40,000, and then followed by the second vote on the second application. If that's okay. Sandy, you got your hand raised?
I do. Are we then going to come back and talk about the third application?
What's the third application?
What's the third one?
Well, I have one for $50,000. I got, I'm
No,
looking at it.
there's no third application.
No.
We just have 2 applications from Terry Whalen and Ted Kean on
Well,
the
I
towers.
have one for 40,000, one for 100,000, and then one for 50,000. They came through. Okay, that's my question. If we're only talking about the other 2, that's fine.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Mr. Lear, can I get an application as it related to the restoration preservation of the Lattice towers?
You're looking for a motion, I take it?
Yes, sir.
All right, I move that the chair send a letter to the Community Preservation Committee supporting the application for the lattice work on the towers.
Second, please.
Second,
Second by Jane. Okay, no other comments or any members of the public wish to pipe in? Thank you very much. Mr. Lear,
Yes,
Steve,
I'm going to wind up supporting the application, but as you
thank you.
can tell by my previous comments that I'm deeply disappointed that the town has taken 4 years to bring this assessment into fruition. They filed an application without having the results yet. It was important apparently 4 years ago to.
Okay, we're
do
at
this
the voting.
assessment.
We're at the voting portion, not the comment. But I hear what you're saying, and
I think
town
we're
meetings.
encouraging the town to delay projects, and I don't like to be part of that. I will vote yes.
All right, but Steve, at 6 o'clock or 5:30 tonight is the select board meeting. Give them what for. Okay, Stephanie.
I totally agree with Steve. I will I'll approve the application, but I don't like a lot of other things about it.
Okay, Jane,
I agree with Stephanie, but I'm gonna vote for it.
Don,
Yes,
Sandy, you get a vote because Ben left. Sandy?
Yes, I
Thank
will
you very
vote
much.
for it, but I stand with Steve Burlingame.
Okay, and the chair votes yes and stands with the rest of the commission. But hopefully we're going to get it going finally. Hopefully the Community Preservation Committee agrees. We need a second motion to allow the chairman to write a letter in support of the application for the erosion protection of tower number 3.
So moved.
All right, in a
I'll
second.
second it.
Second, Bob, very good. Okay,
Don.
I'm sorry, that was
It's
Don?
Don.
Second was
Thank-
Don, but I
Thank you
vote
very
yes.
much. Okay, any member of the public want to pipe in, or we're going to take a vote? Thank you. Bob,
I vote yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes,
Don,
Yes,
Sandy.
Yes,
Thank you very much. I appreciate Ted and Terry. Hopefully we've been helpful.
Chair needs to vote.
And I think, there are some comments here because, this is going to be a tough year. So thank you very much.
Frank, you didn't
appreciate you.
vote.
Our chair votes yes. I thought I said that. Nope. I checked it on my form, but didn't say it. Thank you very much. The chair votes yes. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple of quick things to do. Very quick. And we're at 12 o'clock. So much for a short meeting. Allow me to go forward as quickly as I can and pipe in if you want to interrupt me. Preservation awards, we have at a minimum 3, possibly 4 applications this year. So there will be, in my opinion, if the committee votes to support them, an event for providing preservation awards. The event was tentatively scheduled for May 15th. And Sandy, there's a meeting, and I've asked you in the past, in my absence, which is going to start Monday. I'll be gone for the month of February. If you could please jump in and give me a call sometime, maybe tomorrow or this afternoon, and we can talk about the preservation awards.
Frank, can you give me the date of the meeting again? I've changed over calendars, so it started.
I think it's, I think the date of the meeting was February 9th.
Okay.
2/9 at 11 o'clock. But, we got to check with Kevin and the rest of the committee. But I just want to let you know. Okay. The next item on our old business is the Archaeological Survey. We talked about providing a grant request for that, but I just wanted to let the rest of the commission know. And Steve, I already had this conversation with Steve. You're still here, aren't you, Steve? Yep.
I am.
Okay, that we have identified another source of funds that would allow us, similar to do when we do the Form Bs, to also do the Form Es on the cemeteries. And I think that's there'll be more information. Steve and I are working on we have a proposal from Craig Cordier. So hopefully this week, before I disappear, I'll work with Steve and we'll get that application, that proposal to the other members of the commission, and then we'll probably be able to move out. Effectively, what we're saying here is that with a relatively modest amount of funds, we're going to be able to do for the town's cemeteries what we've done for the town's historic buildings. Steve, you want to add any more to that?
No, I think it's well said. They're anxious to get it going. Hopefully we can get this process going even before the town meeting.
Right. Okay, good. The next 2 items were the CPC applications we just discussed. So there's nothing more to be said about it. I think we talked it to death, and hopefully we will get some kind of approval from CPC, either a direct aid or through administrative funding that allow us to proceed with the updating the National Register, the Archaeological Survey, and the submission of the Nicholson site as a National Register site. Michelle, am I missing something? Is Katie going to give us some information about what the town council said? Because we're still carrying it.
We did have a conversation about it. I think she's still waiting for answers, but I will double back and check with her again today.
Okay, just that the member of the commission know that I'm not stonewalling here. We're waiting for the process to work out within the town administrative function. And Steph, on the demolition delay, once we get through with the bylaw, Ally's going to jump in and help you on that. Speaking on the bylaw, Mr. Lear, on February 1st, we're supposed to go to the select board. It's mostly Ally who's going to be making the presentation to the select board. And I only mention it because, unfortunately or fortunately, my life has turned around again, and I may not be available on February 1st. I'm sure I'll be out of the hospital, but hopefully I need you to possibly fill in for me on that date. Okay?
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Got it. I'll talk to Ally.
Yeah, just the whole issue there, guys, is we're ready. Once we get through the Board of Selectmen, then it will go back to the planning board. And so there's no reason why, hopefully, we'll be able to get on the town meeting warrant in May. South Chatham National Register District, I've got a call into Mass Historic trying to find out where we are, but every time I call, they keep assuring me that COVID and everything else, everything is slowed down. Relative to the chairman's report, so to speak here, and Jane brought this up, we have a couple of pieces of correspondence. The first one, and you talk about being aggravated. This is I put a grant application into Mass Historic, to do some of that work that we just talked about for a CPC, and my grant request was. Not the grant request was turned down. The request even to submit a grant request was turned down. So I didn't get off. I didn't talk about not getting the first place. So, and as far as I'm concerned, it was a technicality. They ask you where'd you get the number? And I told them where I got the number, and they said, well, because you've already got a number, so I don't want to go into it. The point is that I'm going again next year, and I've learned a lot more on what not to say, on how to be a little bit more discreet in the information. I opened my kimono a little too wide and gave them all the information, and then they rejected it. So what can I tell you? Now, having said that, that comment, because we had a lot of things to say from Steve and other people about the town and CPC. There's a lot of money available for historic preservation of National Register sites. And, and I have been trying very hard as your chairman to get the rest of the town to realize that they got to apply for these funds. I get these reports and find out all these towns on the state are getting all this money because somebody bothers to make an application. So
where are we? Yeah.
I don't know what else to say other than the fact that I do let people know that that there is potentially money available. You just have to sit down and write the application. The other piece of correspondence. Yes, Frank, I'm sorry. Good. Yes.
Let me interrupt you one more time. That is just another example of the town's inability to get their act together. It's part and parcel of the same people.
Yeah. Well, I asked the question, do we have a grant writer? Well, we don't. They leave it to I don't know who it is, and I don't get paid enough to write grants, Anyway.
Apparently not, because you didn't do it right. So
that's true. That's true.
Touche.
Thank you. Touche.
I've been living with the library on this.
Guys, remember, this is live television here, right? Okay. Please. Okay. The next piece of correspondence is from Chris Seaford. I think most people know Chris in town, and Chris is I'll call him an amateur archaeologist. He's an archaeologist. He got his I don't know if he got his did his theses on archaeological, and without saying too much, you know, there's a site in town in which during the construction they found a lot of Indian artifacts and stuff like that, and that's what we're all talking about. And there are Chatham is just filled with Indian sensitive areas, and what Chris did is he let me know that he found something, and what did the responsible thing here is he wants to get it reported officially, and I forwarded this information to Holly Herbster of PAL, so the information could be included in our updated archaeological survey. So we know that, hey, this particular site is where there were a lot of Indians back in way before the Nicholsons got here, you know, and so anyway, it's a process of acknowledging that there are these historic archaeological sites and how do we protect them in the future. Jane, did you want to add more to that?
The only thing that I wondered about was, since somebody has been digging there, I take it, is there any way in which to stop it? Is that illegal?
The only protection there is at the state level of Indian sites if there's a burial ground. In other words, if Indians were living there and they, like in this particular site, they found Indian arrowheads and various tools, now that belongs to the people who own the property. If there was a burial there, then the state would come in, and then the state would then contact the Monomoic Indians, the local, I think it's Monomoic, I'm not sure what it is, I'm misspeaking here. Whatever the local Indian authority is in this part of Cape Cod, and then they would come in and they would make a decision to validate, yes, it is an Indian burial, and they make a decision either to remove the remains and put them elsewhere, or just put the remains back in the ground, which is 9 out of 10 times that's what they do. They just acknowledge there is an Indian burial situation, and they, you know, respectfully put it back in the ground and leave it. That's about it.
Is there any way to stop it? Stop the digging?
No, there's just a matter of interrupting it to stop it, and then as I said, the local Indian authority would then come in and make a decision on how to do it.
Jane, in answer to your question about stopping, the foundation went in last week. It looks like they're putting in a motel or something there. I can't believe how they got permission, but they did. So,
Bob, where is that? Where's that?
If you go past Marconi and you turn right on Crow's Pond Road, it's about the third house up on the right.
And they
you can't miss it if you look down.
I believe it's all a home.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Zoning's really gone nuts.
Yeah, I talked to a neighbor there.
Yeah, I know a neighbor. I know the next door neighbor.
Right. Did I answer your question, Jane?
Well, I would think it would be illegal to be digging. At least that's what I was told after the first survey in 2006. It was to stop people from digging.
No, it's not. You can't stop it. Only if there's a burial of a Indian or some kind of prehistoric person, then the state involves.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Status of demolition delays. Michelle, we got anything new to add here?
The only thing I updated from the last meeting to this one is the dates of the the building permits issuance for 68 Shell on December 21st. A building permit application to demolish and salvage the detached barn, to demolish the non-historic parts of the main house was issued on 12/21, and then for the demolition and salvage of the detached barn, the permit was issued on December 22nd. That's the
Okay.
only update since last time.
Well, that ties into the next item there, or an item after next, 68 Shell Drive. Effectively, what happens is the barn, the historic barn has been isolated, and the Nicholson Family Association will soon be flaking the barn. We did approve that CPC application, but hopefully that will proceed, and that barn will be flaked, put in storage until the Nicholson Family Association gets its approval and raises the necessary funds to install that barn on the Nicholson Family Association property in North Chatham. So that's happening. The actual historic house, unfortunately, not much left to it as they continue to prepare it for moving. But I think the only thing we've done here is preserve the exterior architecture of the original house. So I guess we have to take small wins. All right. Lastly, administrative review. We had one, Michelle.
Yes, just one for 117 Shattuck Place, determination of the age for the shed or garage, shed/garage.
And that was determined that it was not 75, if I recall.
Yes, you are correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Last but not least, guys, Monomoy Theater back in the news,
Frank,
but nothing
Frank,
has
we should
happened.
have a vote. We should have a vote on that, I think, to ratify
Thank you.
it.
My conscience. Thank you very much. Okay, so what we have here was a site visit by Mr. Aikman and Mr. Lear relative to reaffirming or affirming that the shed at 117 Shattuck Place was in fact not 75 years of age. Okay, that was kind of a motion.
Well, in the form of a motion that we approve the representative's determination, or the board ratify that determination, I so move.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any
Yeah.
other comments, questions? Okay, we're taking a roll call affirming the decision of our two members. Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame,
Yes.
Ben's not here. Stephanie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes,
Don,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. I apologize that it's 12:15. I'm ready for lunch. Okay, guys, anything else you want to talk about?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, we're going to take a roll call, but I would ask the members of the commission to stay online, if you will, after we go off to the public. Roll call, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes.
Jane,
yes.
Don,
Yes.
Sandy, and the
Yes.
chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Okay, Dallas.